Trigonometric identities. Show that sin x equals to square root of sin square x is not an identity. Well, that's a very important and interesting question. Now here let me also explain you difference between equation and identity. This is definitely an equation. We got equal to sign in between and something on the left and something on the right. So they could be equal, they may not be equal for all the values. Identities are equations which are true for all the values, correct? So that is the difference between identities and equations. Now why sin x is not equal to or not an identity? It is equal to sin square x square root, no? Well, square root of sin square x is always positive, correct? But if you remember, in our quadrant we have a cast rule, correct? So C A S T. So sin is actually positive here and here, not in these two quadrants. So in quadrants 3 and 4, sin is negative, right? So sin x will be negative in quadrant 3 and 4, correct? But square root of sin square x will be positive in all the quadrants. Therefore, this is not an identity. Now, to prove this, what we can do is, you can use a calculator and let's put some values for x which are in quadrant 3 and 4. So if you take x as equals to 210 degrees, for example, correct, then sine of 210 degrees will be negative, but square root of anything will be positive, and negative thing cannot be equal to positive thing. Therefore we can say, well, that is not true, correct? So we can show that it is not an identity, correct? So that is the way to do it. So you can use any of your standard triangles. Let's say 45 degrees if you take, so sine of 45 is 1 over square root 2, right? So if I write this triangle, and let's say this is 45 degrees. So if I put sine of 45, then I get 1 over square root 2. And if I do sine square and then square root of 1 over square root 2, I'll get the same thing. So if I write, for example, let me do it. Sine of 45 degrees is equal to square root of sine square of 45 degrees, right? So it is 1 over square root 2. So both sides we will get 1 over square root 2. But if we have here, that means 180 plus 45, then what happens? If the triangle is here or here, that is 360 minus 45 degrees, or if we have 180 plus 45 degrees, right, 225 degrees, then you'll find the sine of 225 degrees is actually equals to minus 1 over square root 2, correct? But not, which is not equal to 1 over square root 2. Do you understand? That is why this equation is not an identity. It is not true for all values of x. It is true for values of x which are from 0 to 180, but not for the values of x which are from 180 to 360. Okay?